Evening, folks. Just a couple of seconds away from a Tuesday night edition of the Buddy Martin Show. I am Buddy Martin. We are on this program 4 nights a week, sometimes on Sundays, and who knows how many other times. Glad to be with you tonight. We have lots of work to do, lots of information, and lots of good guests. Primarily David Moulton, who's usually with us on a Wednesday night. We get David with tonight. We're going to talk about a ton of stuff. I don't even know where to start, but maybe David can help us, so stand by. We'll go to the orange and blue room, and we'll hear from David Moulton in just a second right here on The Buddy Martin Show.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the program. We're going to try to figure out what is the transfer portal, how does it work, who's in it, and where do you go from here? More news today. We'll catch you up with that. Jervon Dexter, by the way, leaving early to go to the National Football League. We'll tell you about that. But he's staying for the bowl game. Other news, let's just do this. Let's go ahead and get our commercial in. The sponsor of this program this night, and sponsor of David Moulton, is Titan MRI. The folks want to tell you about something you need to know about if you need an MRI.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Thanks, Jeff Cardoza, TitanMRI.com. Let's go right to the orange and blue room, where the usual Wednesday night star of the show is now the Tuesday night star of the show, David Moulton. Even to you, David.
Buddy, how are you?
Confused. Confused. And I remember a quote I read, and I don't know if it was Lincoln Riley who repeated it or whatever. It's so true. Talent is the aphrodisiac. And this is what we're seeing in this transfer portal, which I think we all agree is a good thing. It's just confusing. And I know you sorted out on your morning show, and we're all trying to figure this thing out. So what do you think, David? Can we ever understand this thing? Is it going to take us an MIT degree to do this?
Well, buddy, this to me is exactly what those of us who are in favor of it, of which you and I are. Mm-hmm. If you remember 2 years ago, I said this is going to be messy, and it's going to be a 3 to 5 year mess. And my guess is coming out of that mess, we will then figure out, all right, this needs to be the method to the madness. We need to do it this way. You can only do this. You have to do it during these periods of time. We at least have to have some order inside the wild, wild west. And right now, I think all we have is the Wild Wild West, which to me was to be expected.
Yeah, I saw a really good tweet from this morning from Darren Heitner, which I repeated on Shane's show. And basically it said what you and I have been saying, that basically this is supposed to have been police and wasn't, and we have what's out of control now because it's the very thing that they said it wouldn't be, which is a tool for recruiting. We know it. Of course there is. That's why gosh, I don't even know how many in the portal now, but I mean, it's going toward 800. At all-time record day Monday. and over 1,000 in the portal. And we know all those numbers. That only 28% last year got jobs, and we don't know where it's going to land. But there's a lot of change, and the sentiment I'm hearing from people like Shane Matthews and others about that at Florida is that's the idea. And I liken it today, and you'll like this because you know what this is, to a modern-day Junction, Texas, where Bear Bryant took, 3 busloads of people to Junction, Texas, and brought back 13 players, and they were the essence of the national championship team he had. And those 13 players' pictures are on his wall, used to be on his wall in his house. So it's definitely a purge. It seems to be a friendly purge. I don't know. What are you hearing about it?
Well, I mean, in some places it's not friendly. I mean, did you see Deion's opening speech?
I did.
To his team in Colorado.
He brought his own suitcase, he said, own luggage.
Right, and it's Louis, as in Louis Vuitton, as in, I'm going to be 5-star, I don't know how many of you, quite frankly, are Louis. And he all but said, "There's the door, by the way." And the more of you that leave, and he told them, he said, I'll be brutally honest with you, the more of you that leave, the better. Because I got so many guys that want to play here, and I only have so many spots because you're taking them up. So if you want to leave, please leave. Okay, but if you want to stay, please know. And then his big thing was, I'm coming. And this is what I'm coming with.
Yeah, and what did you think of that? And what do you think of Deion being in Colorado, where, by the way, he has a penalty clause for leaving? He has to pay back millions of dollars if he leaves after a certain amount of time. What's your take on him? And I'll tell you mine because I have a little knowledge of that program.
Well, I'm biased. I'm a Deion guy. And so I buy more of what he's selling than I reject it. Granted, he wasn't catering to me in that room. I mean, I'm soon to be 57 years old, and so he's not speaking my language. But, I'm surprised he took the job because, buddy, as you know, that's not an easy place to win. Now, my understanding is they're giving him a blank piece of paper. He gets to make the rules. He gets to get in the kids that he wants. All the resistance that's been there for a couple generations is apparently now when you go 1-11 and you're the worst Power 5 team in the country, we're going to throw all that away. Well, in that case, then I think he's going to win. I do. I think he'll get players, and believe it or not, now he had better talent in Jackson State than all the other teams, but they were also very disciplined. All right, Deion's persona may give the impression that he's not disciplined, all right, that he's not going to run a tight ship. It's exactly the opposite. So, but big picture for me, buddy, is I'm just concerned about the future of the Pac-12. I don't know if he's going to be coaching a Pac-12 team in 2-3 years because I don't know if the conference is going to survive. That's my first concern with where – it's why I thought if I was advising Deion, I would have said, Deion, there's a lot of unknowns in Colorado, a lot, including – the people that hired you and all that, then 2-3 years into this thing, they may not be there. Because you're going to get some resistance from how the University of Colorado has done things. And my fear is that midstream, that could force you to drown. You go to South Florida, you are going to win. You are going to win quickly, and you're going to be in line for any damn job you want. Colorado's a much harder turnaround, in my opinion, okay, than South Florida would have been. David here saying the Colorado AD, I thought, buddy, had one of the all-time classic lines. He was asked at the press conference, do you have the money to pay Deion? Because buddy, this is big-time money Colorado's handing out. They haven't handed out money like this before. And the AD was asked, do you have this money? And he said, hell no. But I know we're going to get it now.
Yeah, and that's true. Not only that, think about this. How about the NIL deals they can do with marijuana?
True.
I mean, it's amazing that would be coming. All right, let's get focused in on one particular team at the moment, where most of our fans are concerned about, and that is, of course, the Florida Gators. We know all that's happened this week. No real shock that that AR is gone. In fact, Gatorbait wrote about it last Thursday, saying that he just cleaned out his locker and that he expected to leave, but the University of Florida said, no, not yet. Well, 4 days later, he was gone. And, well, of course, we know the unfortunate situation, what happened to Kitna. Now we have a number of players. I'm not alarmed by it, and Shane talks about it all the time. No, this is what I wanted to happen, what I see happening. But, you know, Gervon Dexter was not in the portal, but he's going pro. And he's going to stay and play the game, which I think won a lot of hearts for Gator fans. And good for him. Hopefully he won't get hurt and he has a good insurance policy. So there's a lot going on. I don't have the nose count, but in a minute we're going to have our nose counter here. Kyle Curtis is keeping up with this. He'll be along later. And also it's trivia night here for our man Loren Meadows, who will be coming from Spurrier's Grand Grill, where I'm going to take you to dinner one of these days soon. And he has a little question for you folks out there in trivia, which we have. But for the moment, let's focus on this. Quarterback. Because it's an obvious reason. Florida doesn't have one. Doesn't have one that's ever taken the snap. So that is the issue. We think, we don't know 100%, we think it's Jack Miller. Perhaps. And I've got a backup. Kyle Engel is, I think, the backup, whose name I'm not totally familiar with. But anyway, so now the recruiting season is underway. Rashada is the hot topic. Lagway is also being named as a possibility. But let's do this. I have a list of quarterbacks. I just wrote them down. Shane gave me some of them, of people who would be a possibility that I like, or I like 2 or 3 of them. Let me read that list out and see if you see hearing names that resonate with you. And a lot of them won't be, might surprise you. Shane is really strong on 2 or 3 of these. One of them is Devin Leary from NC State. Another one that Shane brought up is high on is Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina. He said, don't let the size of the school fool you. Tulane's quarterback, Michael Pratt, who has a high percentage rate. The one people have talked about is Sam Hartman from Wake Forest. DJ, let's just call him DJU from Clemson. It could be easy. Ugalele, whatever his name is. And then I threw a couple other names in there just for kicks. Haynes King of A&M. I don't know. He's the guy. He's in the portal. And then Drew Pine from Notre Dame. So any of those names that strike you, you say, hey, these guys are worth looking at.
Well, the best one of the group, in my estimation, is Hartman from Wake, but he's only good for a year. Mm-hmm. See, to me, there's 2 guys in there. First off, I thought that DJ at Clemson was horribly coached. He just was. And I also thought that the head coach for the last 2 years never really had his back and affected his confidence. I do think that wherever he goes, he's going to get better coaching, and he's going to get a coaching staff that's going to build him up. Mm-hmm. And I think that when that happens, remember, he was a 5-star. And the Notre Dame kids got 2-3 years of eligibility as well. So to me, DJ and the Notre Dame kid are interesting because they're not just your 2023 solution. They can be your solution for at least 24, and I think in the one case, even for 25. So that, to me, when you're out there, I mean, Napier's got to know how's it going on the high school recruiting trail. Does he got a guy that's coming in who's probably not going to be ready in 23, but he'll be ready by 24? Trust me. Well, in that case, you go get Hartman, get a 1-year guy. Mm-hmm. But if right now you're looking around between your quarterback recruits and your roster and you go, we don't have any answers. Well, then I may want a guy who's got more than 1 year of eligibility.
Well, I mean, there
also,
are a couple.
What style of offense do you want to run, buddy?
I would say balanced probably, and I think he's run the ball a lot. I would say, I'm thinking he looks at a typical balanced offense. Would be my guess with those 2 running backs. In fact, he might tilt a little in the favor of the running game, but he's smart, depending on who you got playing quarterbacks for you. So I know some people say you can train a quarterback, get him going. I don't trust a first-year guy unless it's someone like Jack Miller who shows something in the spring. He's been around for a while. I'd be afraid to take a raw recruit and put him in there without, and I'm sure they won't unless they see him in the spring exam. So I don't know a lot about these guys. I'm not going to be one of these guys who's an expert on every name that pops in the portal. Everybody's got an opinion based on a whim. And this is a very difficult story to report, to understand, because we have no real accurate information. And so we just have to go with the list of prospects.
Well, and buddy, your attitude may be different. You have to do this every day to a specific audience that wants new information every day. I've told our audience, I'm going to sit back and pick up the pieces once the pieces are done. Because right now, this is just a bunch of fish that's being thrown everywhere. And I'm going to wait until they're all corralled and at least get me through 10 days from now when we go through the early signing period. And my guess is in the next 10 days, a lot of these players will have found their new home. And I can sit down right before Christmas and go, okay, let me tell you who's added who.
Yeah.
I think it's really difficult right now to do it day by day by day.
Yeah.
Like Alabama had 5 offensive linemen yesterday. 5 declare for the portal. 5.
Well, they're all offensive linemen? I don't think they're all offensive linemen.
Yeah. They had 5 offensive linemen alone.
Really?
Declare for
I
the
saw
portal
a few,
yesterday.
but I didn't see that list. I think you had 9 overall. Or you could be right, David. That's why I say I'm guessing here. So I didn't want to go. I take your word for it. You know your stuff. I want to mention, if I didn't mention this guy, I don't necessarily think he's the Keaton Slovis from Pitt is also in there. His name was mentioned. But a lot of people are throwing out names. And some people are saying, well, he said he was contacted by Florida. I mean, look, what does that mean?
Well, exactly. I mean, you would think he would be contacted by Florida. Florida needs a quarterback. He's a quarterback.
But what does
You
that
would
mean?
think-
Some
Well,
GA called him and asked him, what his home? I mean, being contacted just because the guy says I was contacted by Florida
Well, exactly.
doesn't mean he's
Right. I
going to
mean,
be.
well, no, it doesn't mean that at all. But it means at least Florida is, shown this much interest at
Yeah,
least.
perhaps.
And
Yeah.
then they gauge whether or not he's interested in them and whether or not they should spend 5 more
Yeah.
minutes on him.
What did you say that you're going to do? Stick around and pick up the pieces? Is that what you said?
Yes, I'm going to wait.
Tony
10
Bennett. I want to be around to pick up the pieces when somebody breaks your heart. Yeah, how about that? Tony Bennett, right on. Breaking the song. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I get it. I kind of with you on that. Let's just wait and see until we have something to talk about because everybody's
By the
guessing.
way, I agree with Terry Johnson. If you can get Hartman, and I'd take him for a year. Absolutely. I think he's
I
the
agree
best
with that.
one. So far, he's the best one that's out on the street. I think the kid's tremendous. He'd be an upgrade, quite frankly, over what you've had the last 2 years. And, yeah, absolutely. And you need to start at that position. And even if it's for a year, great.
Yeah.
And then the Napier and company have got a chance to go line up the next guy.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so before we switch gears and talk about the pros, because the NFL has some news today on the quarterback position, which are interesting. There's some rules on the portal. I looked them up today. You probably knew this because you're much more astute than I am. But this whole thing was adopted for some time ago. And the window for players to put in their names is open for 60 days a year. At the FBS level, the first window opened yesterday, closes January 18th. The second window comes at the end of the spring semester, May 1 through May 15. Players do not have to make a commitment during that time. They just need to put their names in the portal during these periods. And there are 2 exceptions to the rules. If you're going to be a graduate transfer, you don't have to worry about windows. You can enter the portal at any time. If your coach just got fired, you have an extra 30 days to decide whether you're staying or leaving. So far, almost 250 FBS scholarship players have taken advantages. I think this number's been updated quite a bit. So that's the stuff I didn't know, David. You probably did.
And they're going to try to rein it in a little bit more. They're going to try to make it just 2 periods and make it maybe a smaller piece of time. You know how coaches are, buddy, and you know how colleges are. They want as much control over things as they can, and right
Sure.
now they feel they have no control. And I do think that, and they're going to probably try to figure out if legally they can get away with this. I think they're going to want to try to have it be like, um, you can have your first transfer, but then you don't get a second transfer unless you've graduated. Okay, what I believe they're trying to avoid is transfer, 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 transfer. Okay,
Makes
the other
sense.
thing that I've heard talk that they may try to, if you claim, say, a guy in the transfer portal and he leaves in a year. Well, if he had 3 years of eligibility remaining, then maybe you lose a scholarship for the whole 3 years. So, there's talk of maybe that's how we're going to have to rein it in from within.
Sure. All
But
right.
as you hinted at the beginning, though, there's two
Yeah.
phenomenons going on here, buddy. Because of COVID, we have so many less high school kids that are being offered scholarships
Yeah.
than have been in the past, because kids have gotten an extra year of eligibility. They've gotten free transfers. Now with the transfer portal, they get more. And basically, there's no need to have to bring in high school kids. You can just recycle all the college ones. But then you've got the phenomenon like you have every year about the draft. 800 kids declare for the draft and only 300 of them get drafted. We see it all the time in the NBA. 70 underclassmen declare, 24 of them get drafted. Well, now you're going to have this in the transfer portal too, buddy. Like you keep saying, you think the number is going to be around 800. Well, how many of these kids who are leaving scholarships, okay, are going to get new scholarships? Probably only 50 to 60%. And so that's how wild this is also going to be for the next few years.
Agreed. On the other front, a couple of things. Kudos to Gervon Dexter. I hope he did for doing. The fans really love him for coming back to play in the meaningless Las Vegas Bowl, SRS, whatever that is. Hopefully, they have a quota to be able to play. And then congratulations to Osira Torrance. What a great season he had. First team All-American, first team All-SEC today. And he's going to be a first rounder. Never gave up a sack. And then also Ethan White was the second team All-SEC offensive lineman. So that tells you what the strength of that team was, obviously. And then they had a couple of guys make all freshmen. Austin Barber, College Football News named him a first team All-American freshman. And Trevor Etienne and Shamar James one honorable mention. So a few Gators getting mentioned, and glad to see them get something. And the final thing on this particular subject, David, is I was talking to someone this morning. It was probably Shane. He said, if the fans would just understand this is necessary and stop making dumb comments and let them go, whatever. And I said this, and maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't. You got to understand the mentality of fans. They've been told to love these players, to love this team, and support it with all their heart, whatever. We've given them pledges to say whatever. And suddenly they see these players leaving, and a piece of their heart goes with them. They can't help it, You got to understand the mentality. There's a certain amount of sadness to see Anthony Richardson go out the door. Although a lot of people say, oh, no, he needed to go. Well, they became emotionally attached. Fans do that. So it's a tough process for fans to suddenly be asked to turn off their loyalty and don't stop worrying about the players because this is their team. So I get that, don't you?
Yeah, fans are loyal to the front of the jersey more so than to the back, yet they want the back of the jersey to be as loyal to the front as they are, and obviously there's a conflict there.
Sure.
The one thing I would like to say to some fans who may be unhappy with some of the players who are going to transfer, remember, they did not agree to come to Florida with this coaching staff.
True.
Okay, so some of them may have stayed a year longer than they, in retrospect, wanted to. I look at it this way, buddy. USC had 51 new players this year. Now, the key one is the guy who's the front runner for the Heisman. And that's why, to me, if I'm the Gators, get me Hartman from Wake for 1 year. Get me a top-notch college quarterback.
How would you like Drake May? How about Drake May? Would you like him?
Well, I don't think he's leaving North Carolina. He grew up there. I mean, I will say this: if a Drake May leaves North Carolina, that's the part of college football that would then be scary. This is a
Yeah.
kid who grew up in that area wanting to be a Tar Heel.
Sure.
He's the star quarterback for North Carolina. As you know, buddy, he's playing for Mac Brown. I mean, it's tough to get better than playing for Mac Brown
The
in
Mac
college
kid, yeah.
football.
Yeah.
So if he were to leave, that would be disconcerting to me.
Yeah.
But if I'm a Gator fan, give me Hartman from Wake, and then let Billy run wild between new recruits, and
Lagway,
transfers, what have you. All right,
whatever.
and bring in 40 new guys, many of whom will be better than the guys that they were replacing. And if you give me a quarterback and 40 new guys, 30 of whom are an upgrade, let's go.
Okay. Couple of quick things before we get to the NFL and Baker Mayfield. One of them, new coach at USF, not just Deion didn't take it, Alex Golish, born in Moscow, Russia, was at Ohio State. Did a really good job, and at Tennessee, Josh Heupel says he's smart, competitive. He said, I think he'll have a great ability to communicate, to relate to student athletes. He's relentless. He thinks he'll be a success at USF. We'll see about that.
I do want to throw this out
Sure.
there. Doesn't his resume though look an awful lot like the guy that just fired?
Yes, he does.
I am very surprised this AD did not hire somebody with head coaching experience. I understand USF is better than their record, but they need to start winning soon. They need a guy who's done this before, in my opinion. Golish is a recruiter more so than he is a coach. Well, they just hired that. And look where he ended up 3 years later. So to me, that's the concern I have for this job. I really wish they had hired somebody who had been a head coach before.
Well, they tried to hire Deion and they couldn't quite pull it off.
Well, and I will say it concerns me a little bit that, the Coastal Carolina coach chose Liberty over them. Chose Conference USA over AAC.
Yeah.
Although I do think you have more resources and you can win more quickly at Liberty. But that would concern me if I'm a USF fan, that somebody chose Conference USA over me.
Well, Liberty's got a lot of facilities and apparently a lot of money, I guess. I don't know. But
a multi-billion-dollar endowment, yes.
Yeah, all right, so let's talk about, how about Baker Mayfield? I didn't even know he had been put on waivers. And next thing I know, he's picked up by Los Angeles. And I think he'll be a great fit there. He may be, he's not the long-term answer, but Baker Mayfield, when he's hot, he can bring it.
I was curious who was going to pick him up. He's not under contract after this season. That's why I thought there was a chance he might slip to a better team. Although the Rams are the defending Super Bowl champions, but they're awful and undermanned right now. I just don't know, buddy. What are you going to get from Baker in the last 4 or 5 games of the year? He's got to come in. He's got to learn your system. Is he even going to play? I wish that Baker still had at least one more year left on his contract. Then I think some interesting teams would have claimed him with the thought of maybe he's our guy after a year in our system and an off season, and maybe sometime next year he's our starting quarterback. That's not going to be the case with the Rams. I guess they're going to kick the tires and see whether or not he's worthy of being Stafford's backup next year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess plug and play, he's probably the best available at the time. They didn't have a guy to play, so they got to do something.
Now, Dan Bond there, Bryce Young got $3 million this year was the word to be the quarterback at Alabama. And there's no doubt, 3 has now become 5.
No.
All right. But, Dan, it's not our money. I mean, it's not. And I don't think you're helping to bankroll the next Gator quarterback. If these boosters, listen, here's the way I look at it. Instead of building more waterfalls and more buildings, and so to show the recruits and go, oh, isn't this lovely? I'd rather you just pay the kid.
Well, David, they have to do both. You can't, if you don't have the waterfalls or whatever, that's part of what brings them there. It's a different game than what we're used to. But I hear what you're saying. By the way, Barry Odom hired today by UNLV. How about that?
That is interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so pretty good hire off the wall. So Sam Pittman's got a little work to do there. I see you got Josh Braun, as Toby says, and again, I think Braun is a smart guy and was a really good player. Just couldn't quite make the first team here, and whatever reason, he's a quality guy. I think Braun is an underrated guy. All right. What else in the National Football League? San Francisco, Garoppolo looks like he is going to be able to play. They didn't lose over the season. That looked like that was going. They were going to go all the way with that team. And suddenly, what does that do to San Francisco, David?
Well, the playoffs start in 6 weeks, and they think it's a 7 to 8 week injury. So you're talking about what? An NFC Championship game? Maybe they can get Jimmy Garoppolo back. Can they win with Brock Purdy at quarterback? Buddy, we've seen second-string quarterbacks take teams on championship runs. We've never seen a third-string quarterback take a team deep into the playoffs into a Super Bowl. So, they're not going to get a first-round bye. They'll probably get one home playoff game. Then they're going to have to go on the road. Right now, it looks like they'll go on the road in the playoffs with Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy. Well, there you go. What we haven't talked about is Alabama has lost a lot of players the last 2 years. And anybody who's really not playing there, because they got Alabama on the resume, are going to get a chance to go somewhere. But here's the thing we got to remember. We've seen the outgoing. Now what does the incoming look like? And Alabama's going to have a heck of a roster because they're going to get a lot of players that they want.
Well, and Nick's modus operandi has always been to sell the guys on, listen, you may not like my plan, but my plan's going to put you into the NFL. And the kids have believed it. And so it's particularly at running back. It's like you don't need 3 years of heavy carries. Learn how to play the position. Learn how to pick up the blitz. Learn how to be a part of the passing game. And then you'll get 1 year where you're the guy. And that's all you need. And then you'll go to the pros. And trust me, ask Ingram, ask Henry, blah, blah, blah. But, buddy, now you're getting guys who are going, sorry, Nick, I need to play. I'm not going to wait my turn, etc.
Yeah.
So I think Nick's going to have to change how he does things. He's going to have to just play guys sooner at positions where he hasn't in the past. But, buddy, aren't you curious? Let's see if this is going to start to affect Georgia. You got to give Kirby a lot of credit, not just for what he's
give
done.
All the credit in the world.
But Kirby ain't losing guys. Now, and he also ain't taking them because he ain't losing.
You're playing for a national championship. You're not going to lose anybody.
Well, but buddy, Clemson has in the last couple of years has been losing guys.
But they haven't won a national championship in a long time, David.
2018's not that
well,
long. I mean, they've played for three. Buddy, they played for four national titles in the last 8 seasons. I mean,
but it can slip, as you point out, which is what I think you're saying, is that you can lose. It doesn't take much to change a dynasty, right?
Right, and Nick, it looks like Nick this year is going to start experiencing
Yeah.
what Dabo the last 2 years has experienced, where all of a sudden about 12 guys get up and want to leave, and then you have to decide how many replacements are you going to take from the portal. Nick's been very strategic, 3 or 4 guys at specific positions. Dabo's been anti-transfer portal. You know, Kirby hasn't lost anybody really yet to the portal.
True.
So he hasn't had to decide whether or not he wants to take anyone from the portal.
It's coming. It'll come. And the other thing is the silent killer is also when you start losing assistant coaches. And that's one of the things that happened to Nick. He lost 2 very valuable coaches, or is going to. And he lost them last year. And so that's what they say. I don't know this. That happened to Kirby. Kirby lost a couple of guys that really hurt him. It's not Kirby. Dabo lost it, cost him. And it happened in essence to Dan Mullen. I think Brian Johnson was a bigger loss than people realize. They had that record year with, of course, they had to do Kyles and all that. But, man, when he left, the quarterback play dropped off. And I think sometimes a key assistant or 2 can really change the tenor of things.
Well, and Buddy, you've seen a lot of it. You know, the last thing that Dion negotiated was the assistant money pool. You know, that's a big deal now in trying to lure. Same thing with Matt Rule at Nebraska. The last thing that was being negotiated was not his compensation. It was the assistant's compensation.
Yeah, true. And that's what they're working out now with out in Colorado with Dion as well, I think, trying to get that post one. All right, David, good stuff as always. Tell folks how they can get your show in the mornings and get really educated. David keeps up with a lot of sports. By the way, did you see the thing about the new stadium with the Rays are getting?
It's a very interesting proposal. It's one of four.
Right.
They want it to be on the ballot, or at least not on the ballot, but for public debate and eventually vote beginning in January. And what would be interesting is if the folks of St. Pete decide they want one of the other three projects that don't involve the baseball stadium.
Yeah. Well, you're right. And I think the thing about it is interesting. This is the whole urban renewal. I mean, this is senior homes and offices and condos and all kinds of stuff. And it's a $1 billion project. I would love to see him have a chance to keep the team in St. Pete, even though probably Tampa's a better place. I just think St. Pete has a long history. They supported this team in the bad times. I would like to see them do it, and we'll see. It's a drive over the bridge, but that's no doubt about it. Tampa would be a better place, without question. All right, how about soccer in the World Cup and what happened today, where Ronaldo was held out, one of the great players, and they won the game 6-1. He didn't come into the second half. What about that for a ballsy move?
Well, apparently he and the coach aren't getting along, and the coach reminded him who was the coach today.
And Ronaldo denies that, but that's kind of what everybody's writing and saying. So I don't watch it every day. I just happened to notice today that they were going to bench him. I thought, man, if he loses that game, I forgot who they were playing. Was on Morocco, was it? Switzerland, that's correct. It was 2-0 when I was watching it. And it wound up 6-1. So he dodged it. Portugal is living large right now. So, all right, David, tell them how to get your show.
Well, very quickly, Eric, the Niners came out today and said that it's not a season-ending injury, but it's 7 to 8 weeks. So that's why Buddy brought it up, and it's like, maybe they'll have Garoppolo sometime in mid-January. But
thank you for bringing that up. That's why I put it up there so I could know that.
The name of the show is Miller and Moulton. It's
Heard
6
of it.
to 10 a.m. And it's on a station in Lake City, 106.1. But you could just download some podcasts at floridasportsnetwork.com, floridasportsnetwork.com. And, like we have Gary Danielson on pretty regularly. Today we had on David Sampson and Pat Kerwin, some national guests. And, Bud Elliott will join us tomorrow morning at 7:35.
Good stuff. I highly recommend the show. I've heard it many, many times. Is the show still on down in Naples, or is that you still on the air in Naples at all?
Yeah, we're on in Southwest Florida.
Yeah,
and we're on in Tampa, St. Pete, and we're on in Lake City.
Right, and Live Oak too.
Lake City.
I thought you were both Live Oak and Lake City. Okay, so.
No, well, I will say that the station's got a good stick, so maybe we're heard there. But we're in 4 markets. Yeah,
very good, and soon to be more. David, you do great stuff. Great stuff tonight. Thank you for being on the program, my friend.
All the best, everyone.
Thanks, David. The great David Moulton joining us once again, presented by TitanMRI.com. All right, it's time to go out to the neighborhood, as they say, and got a guy standing by. We're going to visit with him in a second. First, we're going to hear... Before we go see Loren, he's not in there yet. I don't think he was earlier. I'm going to go ahead and hear from our friends over at Meldon Law. Let's see what Jeffrey's up to now. Jeffrey is, I'm going to play the promo after that, Loren's promo, and then I'll play Loren's promo now. Then we'll hear from Jeffrey.
This is Loren Meadows with Gatorbait Media, bringing to you a new special treat that we're going to have for you guys. Every Tuesday, I'm going to ask a trivia question from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Who will be the first to get it? If you are, you'll be in line for great prizes every month. We'll enter you into a drawing, and we'll see who's top in trivia. I'll do my best to stump you guys every single week from right here at Spurs Gridiron Grill. For Gator Bait Media, this is Loren Meadows. We'll see you inside.
Jeffrey, what are you doing?
Well, I'm joining the band, of course. Since Meldon Law is the official law firm partner of the Florida Gators, I want to help.
Dad, we're litigators. Let's stick to helping people in the courtroom.
Well, can we still hang out and jam a little bit? At Meldon Law, we won't back down.
All right, Meldon Law, thanks very much, fellas. Let's go to the orange and blue room and see who's in there. It's usually the coach. Let's see if he's there tonight. I believe he is. You heard his trivia question. Promo. He's got one for you. I think it might be on basketball tonight. Let's good evening to Loren Meadows. What's up, Coach?
How you doing, sir?
Very good. Trying to figure out what's going on in this transfer portal, as we all are.
Yeah, I think I think it's kind of like I said on Sunday. It's kind of wait and see, man. Everybody's out there. JT Daniels is now going to be on his fourth school, which is a little surprising, and I think that's the state of where we are now. I actually had a chance run in with former Texas A&M coach Kevin Sumlin last night in Daytona, and he, we kind of talked a little bit, and I asked him about the change in landscape, kind of since he had been out of it a little bit, and he said, just it's one of those things that everybody's going to have to get used to and adapt. He said, got to adapt. I mean, plainly put, he said the game will survive, but people have to adapt, and he was pretty blunt about that. So I think that's where we are now, is just getting used to the new normal of how this thing is going to look from now on.
Yeah, did he offer you a job, by the way, by any chance?
No, he's with the USFL now.
That's what I say. Did he offer you a job? I figured.
No, he didn't. He didn't take. There was a guy from Bethune-Cookman there too. He didn't.
Yeah.
They neither one of them. A good friend of his from high school. But no, they were very gracious, and I just went on my merry way. So no, it's a nice meeting.
Yeah, Coach Summer's still living large off that A&M money, so he got no worries.
Oh yeah,
about
no
that.
doubt.
So we're going to talk about stuff tonight, but I think fans. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to tell Eric Newton. Yep, Dayton, Ohio in the house, 937.
There you go. There you go. So I got a list of quarterbacks. I read them earlier. I have no idea, and I'm not going to pretend like I know this because I don't. And people who do act like they know, they're lying to you. They don't know either, because I'm not sure 100% that Billy Napier knows what he wants to do just yet. I know some people want to talk about basketball, particularly Andy. We'll get to that in a minute. But I wanted to read these names off to you as I did earlier. I took these names down. Shane gave me some of these names. I know a little bit about some, but not much to make other than an educated guess. I just couldn't. But the names I'm hearing, and doesn't mean any of these guys are going to come to Florida, because I'm just make a list of prospects. Like when you're out, doing business and prospecting, and you got to write down potential customers, you write the list down. So I wrote down some names here. I don't think you'll like some of them, but the most popular one is Sam Hartman, if in fact he comes out and decides to play. Then you got some names like Dennis Leary from NC State. I have seen him in a couple of snaps. Then you've got Shane is really high on this guy, Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina. He thinks he's a good player, and he also likes Michael Pratt from Tulane a lot. He said, "Don't let it fool you." Keaton Slovis is from Pitt. I don't know enough about him. I've seen him maybe once or twice. I'm not in love with him. Then DJ, whatever his last name, ukulele from Clemson. I'm not seeing anything there that I'm enamored with. And then a couple guys like Drew Pine, Notre Dame, and then Haynes King. I don't know that I think of all those ones besides Hartman. I'll just take Shane's word for it. he likes Pratt from Tulane and Larry from NC State and McCall from Coastal Carolina. All right, so what do you got there?
Well, two things. I think when it comes to what Billy Napier should or shouldn't be looking for, I'm gonna take a different path, and then we'll get back. We'll get back to the quarterbacks real quick, but
Okay.
I think he should be looking for defensive linemen first. So I think
Well, it probably
I look
is.
at the list.
Yeah, probably is. Yeah.
And that's true. But now going back to the quarterbacks, obviously Sam Hartman is an intriguing, guy. Guy that a lot of the scouts I think a lot of, and could really come in and steady the program. I think the thing that kind of concerns me about Hartman is the fact that I think he only has. I looked. I can't tell if he has 1 year left or two. And I think it would be in Billy Napier's best interest to possibly get somebody who, has the opportunity to stay at Florida for 2 years. But, if he has a good year, he can go to the league and then maybe groom one of the younger quarterbacks that Napier's recruiting to come in and fill that spot then. Haynes King is interesting because, Haynes King didn't have a great year this past year, but kind of has some of the tools that I think would resonate well with the offensive scheme that seems like Billy Napier wants to employ. I think he can, possibly, like Shane says, throw completions, things like that, is already attuned to the life of the SEC and how that works. And, some of those things as well. So, those are the guys. But, people can surprise you. I mean, I know a lot of people, Keaton Slovis is one that, he was kind of up and down at Pitt. Leary had a decent year at NC State. I mean, they're just all out there. And then, it's just going to be, it's really tough to tell at that quarterback position. And, I'm not sure that our quarterback isn't on the roster right now. If Jack Miller.
We just haven't seen him yet enough to be able to make a judgment.
Yeah. Right. So, I think it's just, but I would say Hartman, if I had to look at it, I would say both ends of the spectrum. Obviously Hartman is proven, whereas Haynes King is more potential. But those are the two that would be most intriguing to me. Okay. And then the Pratt kid from Florida, because he's from Florida.
Yeah.
The kid from Tulane.
Yeah.
I think, probably somebody who feels, didn't have the opportunity, maybe got overlooked in the initial recruiting process, has improved. So for him to come back to the state of Florida and possibly play for his home Gators, I would say those three, Pratt, Hartman, and King, are the most intriguing.
Of course, they got Rashada coming in, and maybe Lagway. We'll see. But they need somebody to transition. Maybe that's Miller. We'll see. By the way, Shane brought this up a couple times. He's kind of saying to people, stop complaining and whining. It's all good. He says, folks, we were 12-13 the last 25 games. And it's pretty stark when you put it like that, 12-13. And that's obviously not all Billy's fault, but it is what it is. You can't deny that. All right, so let's get your question out here now. And we've got our nose counter in the Orange and Blue room, Kyle Curtis, who's done a terrific job, by the way, lately reporting on this. We'll get to him at first. Let's play your bite. He went out to Spurrier's Grill. The topic is basketball. And then some of these guys like Andy want to talk about tomorrow night's game, which we can do. But let's go see what Loren's got here for trivia tonight.
Loren Meadows with Gator Bait Media here, coming to you live from Spurs Gridiron Grill with Tuesday Night Trivia. Florida basketball coach Billy Donovan and former Kentucky basketball coach Joby Hall are two of 4 college basketball coaches to play in the Final Four and also win a national title. Can you name the other 2? Here's a hint. They are 2 of the winningest basketball coaches in college basketball history. With Gator Bait Media, this is Loren Meadows.
All right, change up on you. Getting your little hoop in there, and that's fine. If you know the answer, go on, log on, write your answer down, and the first one to get it correct will go into the hopper and get a chance to win a couple of prizes. I've got a box of stuff for you, Loren, by the way, as soon as I see you, to take up to Freddie's places, so to look into. So, yeah. All right, so there's the question. Let's see how fast I can look it up, because nobody knows that.
I actually did know it.
Did
I
you?
had to check and make sure I was right, but I did know that, and I
Mm-hmm.
was one of the guys. I'm probably giving it away now. One of the guys is originally from my home state,
Okay.
and I was
Don't tell
going
them
I was going to
anymore.
add a
Maybe they all get
yeah
shut
I was
out
going
one time and take you for granted. If they can't get it right,
I was
we'll
going
give them a chance.
I was
So,
going to add a kicker. I was
yeah,
going to add a kicker on there and have them tell me what schools they actually played
yeah.
at, but we'll see how
All
fast
right.
somebody answers,
Let's
and
see
then we'll
how
go
they
from
do
there.
there. All right. So, let's do some notes. By the way, I think Gator fans are thrilled with Jerron Dexter's decision. Even though he's going to leave, he's going to stay and play the game. A little risky, perhaps, but I think they're very happy with that. Tonight on Gator Bait, you got a little update there from the nose counter himself. He's keeping tabs for us. Kyle Curtis, who's done a terrific job of reporting for us ever since he broke the story Thursday night that AR was probably gone. Kyle, good evening to you.
Good evening. How are you guys doing?
How you
Good,
doing, Kyle?
good. Um, I'll get your early thoughts on the portal, and I'll see you've been popping pretty good with stuff that you're trying to get. You wrote about, and your story tonight about Giron is online. So if folks want to read it, they can go to Gatorbait and read it. But all right, so tell us the latest news on that.
Yeah, so obviously a lot of stuff going on the first few days of the transfer portal being officially open. And it seems like whenever I'm going in there and updating the list or whatever I have going on of transfer, there's always someone else new to add. So it's a forever ending just people coming in and out, and it's almost hard to track at some points and can be a bit overwhelming. But I mean, I think over 60 quarterbacks right now are in the transfer portal. You guys touched on a few that you guys we could potentially see next year in a Gator uniform. There's a lot of good guys out there, and honestly, this is a new form of recruiting for the
It
whole
is
staff. And
exactly what it
I
is.
yeah, it's a new form of recruiting, and as a Gator fan, I mean, this is what Billy Napier hired all of these helping staff and stuff like that to do. Not just these high school guys. I mean, the transfer portals. You can make a case is just as important as getting these guys out of high school. So, like I said last night, it's an ever evolving um, state of college football right now with the transfer portal.
Lordy makes a good point because one thing we have talked about this week is if ever anybody was set and ready for this, it's a guy who has 100 support staff and $100 million building and needs to turn over some bodies. It's the perfect place for some people. And Billy's ready. And this could be the question is how quickly can he get him ready and can he get a quarterback in time to do this? Now, Spurrier believes he could do this because Spurrier did it with Shane Matthews. Took him right out of the so-called portal, which was right there in his back on the squad, and trained him up to be a two-time MVP in the SEC. So I guess we're going to find out, Loren, about Billy's ability to coach quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, and let's face it. I mean, Billy Napier can coach quarterbacks. I think that you could even see there you could see some things even with Anthony Richardson climbing the pocket, doing some things when he was really hot. He threw some very good balls, made some plays. I think that I don't think there's a concern at the quarterback position with Billy Napier whatsoever. I think he'll get whoever comes in coached up. They'll be well versed on the offense, and reads are reads. I mean, you have some different actions and shifts and motions that you deal with as far as it. But when you drop back, the flat defenders, the flat defender, the curl defenders, curl defender, deep defender is too high. It's middle of the field closed, middle of the field open. It's all the same. So I think that if you have someone that's played football at a high level, you know, um, you know, I like some of the things that Billy Napier is doing with the offense, and giving someone who can maybe handle a little bit more of the throwing game, possibly if it's to say that Anthony Richardson couldn't handle it all. I think you'll even see the ability for the run game to flourish under him as well. So, yeah, I don't think Billy Napier will have any. I mean, you have spring ball, Then you got all the summer. You know, Billy Napier's big on giving his quarterbacks lesson plans throughout the summer. You know, mandatory tape they need to watch, not just of themselves, but the opponent, as well as, you know, someone who may be similar to their skill set at the pro level. So with everything they have at their disposal, I don't think that'll be an issue at all.
What surprised you, Kyle, in all this? You've been reporting on this. Is it the volume of players, or what did you expect, and what have been the biggest surprises for you?
I think you killed it. The volume of players. I think we talked by the time we were on the show last night. I think the number of people in the transfer portal was 800. By the time I went to bed last night, it was over 1,000. So the snowball effect has become a real thing. I saw it today. I mean, the Alabama is had the third most people enter the transfer portal today. So I mean, that just shows that no one is really. It's not like you're even safe to these players leaving your school. So that's why I think as a fan base, you can't really. It's not. A few years back, when people entered the transfer portal, a lot of people had questions on the culture of the program and stuff like that. But I think with this new era, you can't really look at it like that. I mean, top programs in the country are having the third most players transfer out of their program. So I think that with the mixture of volume is kind of the thing that's been the most eye-opening to me, is the fact that, you know, these top programs are not safe from the transfer portal. So,
you know, and tonight David Moulton said, Loren, that he thought Alabama had 5 offensive linemen leave for the portal. Did you ever think you see 5 offensive linemen leave Alabama? And these are not freshmen, I don't think. Either like upperclassmen. So there's a lot going on. We hadn't even got all the whole effects of this thing yet. We don't know. But I want to go back to one thing that Kyle said, which is so true. This is recruiting part 2. And in many ways, part 1, because these guys you get, they play, they have experience. And they got to be won over
these guys
too.
have an immediate impact.
Yeah, and they can have
impact.
Yeah, they can come and get as many visits as they want to. They're not limited to 5, right? They can come up and and they got now, according to the rules, they can go to the portal and not make up their mind which team they want to go to June or May 18th, I think it is. So this whole, and Kyle's right, it's like recruiting, but it's recruiting more experienced players. Let's do this. Let's look at the answers. Have you seen any answers on here?
Yeah, Andy McIntosh seems to be first in with the answer that it is the great Dean Smith as well as the great Bobby Knight from Orrville, Ohio, were the other 2 coaches, along with Billy Donovan and Joby Hall, to play in the Final Four, as well as coach a team to a Final Four championship, national championship. So that's the answer. So Andy McIntosh, gets to
now,
win.
how many has Andy won? Has he won one already?
No, I don't think so. He may have won one, but if he's a double winner, we'll we don't have the drawing yet. So.
We don't have any rules on how many times you just can't win the prize but once, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You technically, but I mean, we give a guy a grace period. He could probably maybe win again. But here's another trivia fact. You know what else comes from Orrville, Ohio, buddy?
Orrville.
Ohio.
Let's see. Well, I know that is it the one of the Wright brothers?
No, that's.
Well, I mean, Oregon could be, and Dayton is the aviation place, right? So I thought it was a heck of a good guess. Yeah. Do I get to win anything for that? That was a heck of a guess.
Yeah, solid guess. Yeah, we'll give you a cha-ching, but Smucker's jelly.
I like Smucker's jelly. My wife's favorite.
Smucker's
we like that.
Jelly,
yeah.
Orrville, Ohio.
Yeah. Brett English says the same thing. He says the Wright brothers.
No, that's Dayton, Ohio. That's Dayton.
I know. No, but I know. I know Dayton is. Oh, is Orrville close? Is Orrville close
no,
to
Dayton? No, sir. It's up. Orrville's up towards Canton.
I'm sorry. I don't know the map of Ohio that well, but anyway. So, although my wife's from there, so I should know it. She's from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
All right. So here we go. We got our winners. All right, guys. Let's talk a little hoops here. I guess it was who was earlier asked about tomorrow night's game, and you'll probably be going. Loren, more knowing you, but anyway, one of UConn's top players is out or something. Did you read that?
That I had not heard that.
Yeah.
I know that, and to tell you the truth, I have not dove into UConn. I think Danny Hurley is the coach, correct? So I do think Danny.
I don't follow UConn
is
basketball, so I'm sorry I can't tell you, but one of our guys can. I guarantee Andy. Here, Andy says UConn's Ozzie Fudd out for tomorrow night's game. Gators got a chance.
UConn's real good. I follow like the net rankings and stuff like that, and UConn. I mean, they Alabama, really good squad. They beat by 15. Ozzie Fudd, I think, is one of their top players. I was going through kind of the box score and stuff today on that. But this UConn team is really good.
I don't like UConn. Ever since they whipped up, I think it was about 6-7 years up there. And anyway, that's another matter. All right, guys. Any final?
What I understand is, go ahead. I was.
You go ahead.
Yeah, like
you go ahead.
I was saying, it's supposed to be pretty physical basketball team.
Yeah.
I mean, real hard nosed. So I think in comparison to the way that Florida played against West Virginia, seemed to not be ready for the physicality.
They didn't at all.
Yeah, so I think that's where the comparison kind of comes in. And like he said, if you look at Alabama, some of the wins they had, UConn has a win against them. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a big night tomorrow night at the O'Connell Center for sure.
Well, what y'all think Todd Golden's team is soft? Let's just say it like it is. Think they're soft?
Too early to tell. All right. Too early to tell.
All right.
What do you think, Kyle?
I think it's a little too early to tell. I mean, since the West Virginia game, they've looked a lot better, but we have a few good guys.
They played Stetson. I mean, come on, they are not playing Kentucky.
Yeah, I know. Will Richards, I think, has been playing very well. I think a little bit more was expected out of the transfer guards and Kyle Lofton. I mean, even against Stetson, though, Trey Bonham went 7-7 from deep.
Played great.
You still got to knock down the shots.
And Will Richard can knock it down 3-2 for you. So
he's knocking down shots. So
maybe they're shooting a little too many. Game. Sorry, Kyle. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I think anything. We've always shot better in the O'Connell Center. We knocked off 2 Auburn last year in the O'Connell Center. So. Anything can happen. I think we're gonna have to knock down threes for it to end well, though.
All right, guys. Good job, both of you. Good job tonight. Appreciate it. Loren, I think you got. Are you still writing that piece you're talking about this week? Is there something we can talk about yet? Or we're going to discuss that?
Yeah. No. It's going to be. We're going to take kind of a look at and it's going to kind of be maybe the way it's kind of molding into is just a conversation with Florida fans about, the fact that now Anthony Richardson has chosen to go on to the NFL. I think that people need to kind of, for lack of a better term, check themselves as far as what this young man, the way that he's carried himself as a Florida Gator, and the fact that, none of us were told what profession we chose, what we chose to do, what we wanted to do in life. And I think we need to give this young man a little bit more of the same leeway. If he goes to the NFL and he is a bust, well, the world is full of really nice guys that were bust. It doesn't change who he is as a person. It doesn't change the joy that he brought to Florida fans. And I think if you look at it in the big scheme of things, when you hear words like head case or different things like that, it's just not fair. So just going to kind of expand on that a little bit and just give a short synopsis of why probably in this day and age, the way things are, the way the game is played, that it's probably best that he strikes while the iron's hot and heads to the NFL.
I got the headline written already by Loren Meadows in defense of Anthony Richardson. There it is right there. It's all right.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. Good job, Kyle. Keep it up. If there's something happens tomorrow night, we'll get you back to update us on any other changes, the roster change. I'm waiting for the incomings. I want to see the incomings. I've seen the outgoings. Let's see the incomings, right?
Yeah, it's about to get real exciting. So, all right. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, Loren. All right, Loren. Good night. Thank you, buddy. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you. Two of our guys, our main guys there that carry the I won't say water because they carry more than that. Carry the team. Both those guys, good guys. Glad to have them. All right, I want to just remind you folks about medical, our friends in the medical business, people who are very important to us, Renstar Medical Research. They've been a long time sponsor of our program, and they've been a long time stakeholder in downtown Ocala. And they do so many good things on several fronts, not the least of which is looking after the health of our people in Marion County and Ocala. So just to remind you folks that if you don't know about them, they are a high-quality, patient-centered clinical research facility. They bring cutting-edge clinical research trials to Ocala in areas like Alzheimer's disease, psoriasis, osteoarthritis, migraines, and fibromyalgia, among other things that affect our community. So check them out. Been around for a while since their inception in 1998. They have had over 700 clinical trials. You can be a part of these if you wish, if you qualify. Check them out. You can call them or you can go to renstar.net and find out more about this company, which provides information and data to prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies throughout the medical industry. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Thanks to our guests tonight. David Moulton did a terrific job. Loren Meadows, the coach, and Kyle Curtis, all coming to you tonight on the program. Have a good night. We're back tomorrow night. Chris Thorne going to be in the house. Come join us.